YouTube show, fans of the Six Figure Academy. In today's video, we are continuing our three-part series on keeping a clear mind during stressful times. And today is part 2 of 3. If this is your first time joining us, we did part 1 a couple days ago on why it's important to clear the mind during stressful times. And today, we're going to talk about how to keep a clear mind during high stress. Okay? This may be relevant. This may resonate with you during these times because I think a lot of the world is dealing with an unknown which is contributing to this high stress. Again, if this is your first time joining us, my name is Wei Houng from the Six Figure Academy. I am the CEO, co-founder, where we specialize in helping entrepreneurs live that lifestyle they've always wanted by eliminating bad money stories so they can eliminate money anxiety, stress, worry. And therefore, when we decided to put this free support training series out, it was going to be, our focus is really all around the stress because of what we've been hearing out there. So that more than just our students and clients can benefit from a lot of what we do to help people eliminate and manage stress. I think the big thing is not so much eliminate stress because to some degree, human beings need a level of stress to grow, to survive, And if this is your first time joining us, feel free to ask any questions that you want. Post in the comments below. Even if you're watching this after the fact that it's live, it's going to stay on our channel so that we can continue to support and help as many people as possible during not just these times, but any other stressful time in the future. So if this is if you joined, I'm sorry, this is like the first of 3 I'm going to be doing today, and had a little bit of technical issue earlier, and that's why I was a minute late for the 11 o'clock hour. Let's talk about the topic today: how to keep a clear mind during high stress. If you're joining us from the previous one, in other words, you saw a couple days ago the first part of this 3-part training series. My question is, did you remember the homework? And if you didn't watch that video, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what we talked about. We talked about why it was important to keep a clear mind during stressful times, and we went a lot deeper than just like, because stress is bad for you, right? We talked about the impact that it would have on your money flow, impact that it has on your relationships, and the impact that it has on your health. And then explaining a little bit more why that actually happens, okay? And at the end, we actually assigned a little bit of a homework, if you will, to kind of help get the most out of this 3-part series. And the homework were the questions of basically what specifically are you stressed about? So if you're just joining us now, you can get caught up a little bit by just keeping in mind while I'm talking in today's video, keep in mind the following 2 questions. If you are stressed, what specifically are you stressed about? Okay. And then the next question is a question that most people don't ask is, well, why do you want to have a clear mind during stressful times? Why do you want to not have to be stressed out? And though it may seem like an obvious answer, everybody's answer is actually different. And when you can uniquely define your unique motivation and reason for not being stressed out, it's going to actually help you keep a sustainable, proactive approach on managing stress in a healthy way in your life. Okay. So hopefully you did some of that homework for those of you who are joining us again. And what we're going to talk about today are some of the protocols and processes that basically answers the question, okay, Wei, I know why. I know what I'm stressed out about. I know why I'm stressed out. I know why I want to manage this stress better during these times and any other stressful time in the future. How do I do that? How do I then keep the clear mind during high stress periods? And I think this is really relevant today because, a lot of us globally are approaching the circumstances we're dealing right now in this global pandemic as a high stress situation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why other stress methods, don't necessarily work unless we understand the context of how much of our entire system is impacted when we're stressed out. Okay. So the question I have for you is, did you know that when you're actually stressed out, it's more than just your mind that's stressed out. It's more than just your body that's stressed out. There are actually 4 parts of you. Excuse me, got a little frog in my throat for my coffee. Hopefully you have a drink too and join me. Okay, so there are 4 parts of you that actually need to be addressed. Okay, because when you're stressed out, think about the last time you're stressed out. If you're not stressed out right now, okay, think about the last time you were stressed out. If you are stressed out right now, then just take where you are right now, okay? There are 4 parts of us that are impacted by stress. There's the mental part of us, our mind, okay? And that typically shows up in the form of running thoughts and excessive chatter. There's an emotional part of us, okay? And those are when the emotions start to get triggered. And those are the ones that impact, have a profound impact on our entire system. Okay. Now, we're not talking about the good emotions, okay, because there are good stressors to have. Happiness imposes a different kind of stress than anger to our bodies. Excitement is also a good stress to have. When you're working out and you're feeling good with endorphin, that's a good stress on the muscles, because then it allows the muscles to develop and grow. So we're talking about, there's an emotional piece when stress happens. There's an energetic piece. If you think about all the times you've been completely stressed out and how your energy levels were once you were done being stressed out, or even while you're stressed out, your energy level gets depleted. You get exhausted, right? Stress doesn't really energize you per se. If it does, then you've adapted to that, and that's not a good kind of energizing. It's adaptation. But really, most of the time, bad stresses, actually deplete you energetically. Okay, you have low energy, you'll need more coffee and those types of things. And then the 4th part of you is the physical part, okay, which is the body. And how that shows up is tightness in the shoulders, or tightness in the stomach, or physiological challenges, okay? So there are 4 parts of you that get impacted and need to be accommodated for during stress. So if you want to know how to keep a clear mind during high stress, you actually have to do it through these 4 parts of our existence. Our students and clients refer to this as our 4 bodies of prosperity, and we use these 4 bodies as a way to increase our flow and prosperity. In the context of stress, we address these 4 parts of our human existence to make sure that if we are going to manage stress, we manage it as fully and as completely as possible without leaving any part out. Okay, so let's jump right into some of the ways that we can do that, and then I'll summarize, and that way going into the 3rd part, you can actually work some of these things today and tomorrow prior to our part 3, which is all about knowing how to identify the impact and whether or not your protocols, your processes of managing your stress is actually working. Okay. Some of these you probably heard before, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you understand what it actually is doing when you're doing it to manage your stress, so that your unconscious mind could understand that. See, when your unconscious mind can understand why something works instead of just going on blind faith, it can actually facilitate and help you create a more profound impact. Okay, this is how the placebo effect works, because it tells the mind how you would like the mind to respond to healing or taking care of the body. So the first one I want to talk about is breath work. Okay, breathing. Okay, simply breathe. Most of us have done this before. When we've been in stressful situations, we've learned to breathe and count to 10, or breathe. The important thing is not so much the counting to 10 or count to 3 or taking a pause per se. It is the breath. Because what we don't realize is during stressful times, we've literally stopped breathing. And I don't mean holding your breath. Our breath becomes more and more shallow, which means we're just sipping enough air and oxygen to survive. I can go into the clinical studies and the trials and the scientific backing of all this, but that's what Google's for, okay? For the sake of today's training, to expedite it, go ahead and Google afterwards. But they've done enough studies to show that when people are stressed out, their breathing becomes shallow and shallow, and they sometimes literally forget to breathe. Think about all the times that you've been like completely stressed out and amped out, and you caught yourself holding your breath while you're working on something, or holding your breath when you're like in the middle of something, and then when you stop, you're like. And it felt so good. Why? Because you were literally depriving yourself of oxygen. You were keeping yourself from getting the necessary oxygen to calm and harmonize your system. So what happens is if we consciously and proactively make ourselves breathe deeper and taking deeper breath, and there's so many different types of breath work, what it does, it increases the level of oxygen in our system to oxidize things that will contribute to physiological challenges. And the more you oxidize your system, the better your system is capable of managing whatever happens during high stress times. Okay? So breath work, breathing, is actually really, really important. There are people out there that's all they do in these holistic and healing centers is they just guide and help and teach people on how to breathe more effectively. Okay? So breath work is really important. Another obvious one that we've been hearing a lot about is meditation. Okay? Now, breathing and meditation, it impacts a couple parts of that body. One, breath work, actually oxidization, it helps the physical body, but it also helps bring good energy back into your system. When you oxygenate your body, your energy level actually increases because now you have air fuel mixture. I mean, it's no mistake, or it's no coincidence that car engines, gas-powered engines, need air in order to function. Human beings need air to function with the fuel that we give ourselves when we eat. Without that air, then it runs too rich of fuel, and then there's not enough air to help oxidize and help process all of that. So it's good for the physical body, and it's good for the energy part of the body, okay? Which then leads to clarity of thought, which will then impact your mental and emotional body. Meditation is also good for the part of the body that is needing energy. It gives your body a time to rest. Meditation is also really good, especially do it with breath work, for the physical body and the mental body. Okay, and depending on the kind of meditation that you do, and here's the thing, a lot of people say, well, I try meditation, I can't meditate. Well, here's the thing, is that there is no one way to meditate. Okay, everybody meditates differently. Some people walk to meditate. Some people need to move to meditate, what we call moving meditation. Some people can simply be reading and they can be meditating. Or if you're listening to an audio, okay, there's different types of audio that elicit or attract different types of people. There are people who are more emotionally driven, so guided meditation that utilize a lot of emotions and elicit a lot of emotions will help those that are emotionally centered to meditate better. Those that are movement-centered, walking meditation, walking in circles back and forth is a meditative process, things that you do, repetitive motions, if you will, okay? People who are more cerebral, more intellectual-centered, guided meditations are really good. Reading is also really good. Writing is also another great way to do that. Okay, yes, stream of consciousness. Okay, just write as a way to meditate. So if you've ever tried meditation and you struggle with meditation, it could be that you're just meditating in a way that doesn't align with how you naturally communicate, how you naturally absorb information. But meditation is extremely important, especially during these times, to give yourself that pause. And during a high stress situation, being able to proactively take time out to do a 3 to 5 minute meditation, or just doing some breathwork meditation, will have a profound impact in helping you manage that stress better. Okay, I mentioned writing. Okay, so you may have heard of this process of managing stress, which is journaling. Okay, journaling is a fantastic way, especially journaling not when you're typing, but when you're writing. Okay, when you're writing, it's a miracle in itself. Think about what it takes to actually write something on a piece of paper. Okay, first of all, you need to everything that you want to write is in your mind, which is not even in the form of anything but like an idea or picture or a bunch of synaptic fibers firing in your mind, creating a perception, internal perception of what's going on. Nobody can read your mind and nobody can see what's going on in that moment. And yet, all you have to do is pick a pencil or a pen and write on a piece of paper what you're thinking, and the rest of the world could suddenly, all of a sudden, peer into the thoughts of your mind. It is a miracle in itself. This is why I'm such a big fan of not taking away handwriting from our kids, is because think about what it takes to write. I talk about this all the time with my students and my clients, just to appreciate the miracle of being able to write something down. You take whatever abstract is in your mind and decide, I want to translate this into something that is universally understood. Then what the mind has to do is formulate and articulate to you in a way that you can translate that into language or even picture. Then it has to direct and send signals to your physical body to pick up a pen, okay, so that you can then pick up a piece of paper and then sit down and then tell the hand to apply enough pressure, but not too much pressure, and move it in a certain way so that it converts everything that's here into a universally understood language, be it through pictures or words. If you think about it from that context, it is amazing what the human mind can do. In that process, what you're doing is you're also allowing the 4 parts of your body, the mental, the emotional, the energetic, and the physical body, parts of your body, to, in concert, orchestrate this whole entire process to put that down. What happens is, in that process, the byproduct is oftentimes during high stress periods, the longer you allow this process to continue, this miracle of being able to translate what's in here, everything that you're stressed out about, and putting it onto a piece of paper, you'll notice that the more you do it, the more of that stress then gets translated into the paper and then gets locked in a way, it gets locked into that piece of paper, so you get it out of your mind. You hear about from artists all the time when it gets overwhelming in their mind with ideas and thoughts and creativity. Say, I just got to get this out. I got to get this out. I got to get this out. And then basically they get it out in whatever medium they can, through art or through writing or through spoken word or anything like that. And when it finally is out, it's like a pressure is relieved. And that's what happens. In high stress circumstances, there's an increase in internal pressure that we need to find a way to release and dissociate from. And that's how we clear the mind. But during high stresses, we release the pressure so that all that's in the mind can be translated into different mediums, through breath, through journaling, through art, through creativity, okay, through the spoken word. We live in a time where you can actually jump on a live anytime through these social media channels and allow yourself a free platform, freedom of speech, and just speak your mind. Speaking your mind actually clears the mind. Okay? So, journaling is also really good. Of course, there is a very direct way to handle the physical part of this challenge of stress, and that's through movement. A lot of people have taken up yoga, jogging, running, lifting, and in these times, working out at home, putting on a video, a high-intensive interval training video on YouTube, and just doing it in your room and getting it out of your system. Okay. A lot of times, people who are movement centered tend to hold their stress in different parts of the body. Movement then allows that to flow. Stress sticks to different parts, and if it sticks there long enough, over years, months or years, it starts to create problems. When you move, you allow that stickiness to start to move in and then out of your system. You know, if you've ever had a massage done and you had someone work on your body, work on the tight knots, and you notice that you feel super congested afterwards, and they always, good masseurs, they always encourage you to drink a lot of water when you're done. Why? Because you want to flush the toxins that have been squeezed out of the muscles. When things get stuck there, it builds up toxin, and toxin over time then becomes what we call toxins. It becomes toxic for the body. And then depending on where you're holding it, then it creates physiological challenges over time. And so the best way to do that is to create movement. Literally get your body moving in all different areas as much as possible. Full articulation of the entire body the way it's meant to move, so that you can move the stress through and out of your system. Okay. Now, I mentioned drinking water. Another way to clear the mind during high stress is to also clean up your diet, clean up your nutrition, clean up food and drink. There is a tendency for people to emotionally eat or stress eat, so to speak, and they eat poorly, okay? Which is counterintuitive because really when you're stressed out, your body's already struggling. And then if you introduce stressful food, they call it comfort food. But really what it's doing, it's continuing to validate the stress. Remember, if you saw the last video, our mind spends a lot of time validating the stress. And then what happens is then you eat and you drink alcohol, which then doesn't really take away the stress. It numbs it out, but it doesn't eliminate the stress. It doesn't clear your mind, it numbs it out. So for those of you who are turning to alcohol during stressful times, pay heed to this for just a moment. Alcohol, what does it do on a variety of different levels? It numbs. Okay? They used to have kids rub, alcohol on kids when they're teething on the gums. Why? Because it numbs. So think about what happens when people are escaping by drinking during stressful times. It's like, oh, I need a drink. What you have to realize is you're not remedying the situation. You're basically taking a break from it. You're numbing it out, but you're not solving the problem. You're not clearing the mind. You may feel like you're clearing the mind because you basically numb yourself out for the moment. The thing is, the reason why people become alcoholics is that you numb it out, and when the alcohol goes away, the voices come roaring back. The mind becomes even more cluttered than before, because what it actually does is shifts the chemical balance in your body in such a way so that it just says time out, and then when you come back, it's like it's still going on the unconscious level. Your mind is still going. It's still getting more and more cluttered. You're just not noticing it, and you're not able to do anything about it because you're numbed out about it. Okay? And of course, we know what happens in time when we do that. So what you want to do is you want to clean up your food and drink. So just to review a little bit, some of the fundamentals, right? Breath work, okay, to help clear the mind, okay? Making sure you pay attention to the breath, oxygenate the body, okay? Meditation, of course. And remember that everybody meditates a little bit differently because everybody communicates differently, okay? You could be intellectual, you could be more emotional, you could be more instinctual. It's all about your senses, okay? And you could be movement oriented. So then you have a movement type of meditation. Journaling, the miracle of translating everything and getting everything out of your head and anchoring it to a piece of paper is a fantastic way to clear the mind. In the beginning, it may not feel that way, but the longer you do it, as you continue to do it, you'll start to feel that flow of the mind getting clearer and clearer and clearer because you're seeing everything on a piece of paper and you're releasing the burden of keeping your mind onto that piece of paper, okay? There's movement, of course, to move the stress through and out of your body. And of course, cleaning up what it is that you eat, clean eating, take care of your body, treat it like a temple, and drinking plenty of water and, minimizing alcohol intake during high stress times. Because there's a tendency it becomes addicting because it keeps numbing things out so you don't have to deal with it. The goal here is not to not deal with it, sweeping under the carpet, is to, like we said in the first video, take the trash out of your mind on a regular basis so that when new trash comes in, you'll know exactly how to deal with it instead of just piling it up with the rest of the trash. Stop hoarding, stressful thoughts. So what I want to do is leave you with a couple things to work on before the next part 3 of the video, okay? And it's a more of a specific way that we found has been extremely helpful, and it's called dissociating from the perception of what you see around you that is then giving you a reason to be stressed. Okay, we call it dissociate from perception. It's a methodology to help you dissociate from your choice of perception of what's going on, which is contributing to high stress. Okay. What you're essentially doing is you're going to be questioning your response to the stimuli, the event, as something to be stressed out about. Remember, we talked about in the first video about reversing the stress flow reversal. Okay, why you want to clear your mind, because it reverses the flow of stress. Remember that, in order for you to feel stress, there's a sequence of thoughts, perceptions, and responses to events outside of you or even inside of you, which then eventually gets to a point where you say, okay, I'm in a state of being stressed. So it's like this, and if this, then this, and then if this, then this happens, and if this, then this, and this, and this, and therefore I am stressed. Okay? That's what we need to do in our mind to get stressed. But because it happens so quickly on an unconscious level, we don't always pay attention to that process. And so what we want to do in this is to start to deconstruct that sequence. We want to dissociate from that perception so that you can start to deconstruct the flow of stress and start to really kind of take ownership as like, oh, that's how I'm making stress happen. That's how I'm creating stress. And when you can take ownership of that, you are the master of creating the stress in your own life based on your perception of things. That's when we can start to navigate high stress situations in a very powerful way. And there's two fundamental questions, aside from all the fundamentals that we talked about earlier, there's two fundamental questions around this that I want to introduce to you so that you can start working on that and journal out, and it's useful for any stressful time, not just now with what we're dealing with in the world, but also in any other high stress times in the future. Okay, so the first question, if you find yourself in a moment being stressed out and you can kind of pull yourself aside, take a deep breath, ask yourself this question and be willing to invest time in yourself to do this, which is, how do you know to be stressed right now? Because that response that you're having, that stress, is a learned response. If you put an infant or a kid in the same circumstances you're in, observing certain circumstances happening, they will have no idea to be stressed. They don't even know how to be stressed. We develop that learning by observing others, by being taught, by being told, by being sold on so many different levels, or being traumatized, or being, so many different ways. But we learned how to be stressed. So you want to ask yourself, okay, let's deconstruct this. Let's break this down. How do you know to be stressed right now? After you answer that question, you say, okay, great, this is how I know to be stressed. To further deconstruct it, the second question then is, how do you do it? You say, well, wait, what do you mean, how do I do it? How do you do the stress? If stress was a thing to do, and you were teaching somebody else how you actually get to the point of being stressed, break it down. Step 1, this is what happens. Step 2, this is what happens. Step 3. Almost like creating a manual. It says, well, wait, why do I want to create a manual on how to get stressed? I think the whole point was to manage it so I don't have to be so stressed. Right. But the way to deconstruct it, you're already doing it, so you might as well look at how you're doing it so that you can start to interrupt that pattern and break it down so that you can stop running it. Then you can catch yourself before you run through the whole sequence to becoming stressed, so you stop becoming stressed as a response to certain stimuli, keeping your mind clear so that you can make the best decision moving forward. Okay? So how do you know to be stressed right now, and how do you actually do the stress? Okay, and break it down to a step-by-step process. When you do that, just the process of doing that will help you release the emotional charge behind it, will help you release a lot of the stress and start to empty the mind, because you're focused on deconstructing how you're filling the mind with stressful thoughts to begin with. This contributes to a clear mind. All these things we talked about contributes to a clear mind. And in doing so, you can make the best decisions during high stress situations, such as what we're dealing with right now. Hopefully you found this helpful, and this is, again, part 2 of the training. In a couple more days, we'll come back for the final part of this 3-part series. If you found this to be helpful, make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the notification so you can get notified, and share this. Sharing is caring. If you know somebody who's dealing with a lot of stress during right now, and I guarantee you probably do, share some of these principles, these approaches, these processes, especially the last part about dissociating from your perception choice that you have to create the stress that you're feeling or experiencing. And if you can do that, then that's a great way to pay it forward. Even if you're not stressed out and you're not sure how to get someone else to not be stressed out, especially if it's someone that you love and care about, show them this video. Okay? Well, for those of you who are on here live, thank you for being on. If you're watching this after the fact and not live, share your comments below. If you have any questions at all, we'll be paying attention to that, and we'll jump on to either do a follow-up video or even just like reply to your comment. Other than that, work on these 2 questions, work on integrating breathing, meditation, journaling, movement, and then take a look at what's going on with your food and your drink. And I am looking forward to seeing you in a couple more days for the last and final part 3 of this Clear Your Mind During Stressful Time support training series. Until then, see you, take care, be good, be safe, and we'll talk soon.